We're going to have a hearing today. My name is Michael Michelle. I am the Republican Commissioner from Queens County and President of the Board for calendar year 2015. We begin today with the hearings on a matter related to the May 5th, 2015 special election for a member of Congress in the 11th Congressional District, composed of parts of Brooklyn, Staten Island, and the 43rd Assembly District in Brooklyn. Notice of today's hearing was given on March 10, 2015, copies of which were posted on the board's website and distributed at all our front counters. It is also set forth on all the notices issued by the board for prima facie matters. We ask for your cooperation and understanding, all present, to enable us to move matters along in an orderly fashion. I now would ask each commissioner and staff member presently formally identify themselves or herself for the record.
Ron Castorina, Richmond County Republican. Good afternoon.
Michael Rendino, Republican, New Bronx County.
Simon Schmoon, Kings Republican.
Frederick Humane, Manhattan Republican.
Alan Shulkin, Manhattan Dem.
John Flateau, Kings County Democrat.
Marie Costello, Richmond Democrat.
Jose Roger, Queens Democrat.
Bianca Perez, Bronx Democrat and Secretary.
John Sandell, Deputy Executive Director.
Pamela Perkins, Administrative Manager. Georgia Gonzalez, Operations Manager. Valerie Vasquez, Director of Communications.
Matt Graves, candidate, record unit.
Troy Johnson, CRU.
Kenneth Milton, Council Commissioner. Stephen Bainbridge, Council Commissioner.
Steve Richmond, General Counsel.
Rafael Swino, Deputy General Counsel.
Nina Christina, Director of Personnel.
Okay, I want to remind all persons who are appearing before the commissioners that each must fill out a notice of appearance form, which is available at the front counter. I want to remind all commissioners, board, staff, attorneys, and members of the public that only one person should speak at any time so the audio system can accurately record the proceedings. Also, please speak directly into the microphone so that all present can hear the proceedings. I would also ask all present place their cell phones on silent or turn them off during the course of the proceedings, please. I also want to advise all present that it is the board is required by law to record how each commissioner votes on each matter. In the event that we are not unanimous in our vote on any given matter, I will ask that the council conduct a roll call vote of the commissioners for the record. I now call upon Steve Richmond, General Counsel for the board, to call the calendar for today's hearings.
Commissioners, the materials for today's hearings are in the blue folder. We have a prima facie report and a council report on specifications of objections. The specification of objections also relates to one of the prima facie matters, so with your permission, we'll call them jointly when we get to it. The first is the prima facie finding that no certificate of nomination was filed for Guillermo E. Philpotts to be the Democratic candidate for member of the Assembly in the 43rd Assembly District as required by Section 6-156 and Section 6-158 of the election law. Any appearances? Commissioners, the next page 2 of the prima facie calendar relates to the specification of objection, so with your permission, we'll call that last. And on page 3, the preliminary defect of a prima facie defect is found that no independent nomination petitions were filed for the contest for the 11th Congressional District Special Election for the Rent is Too High independent body as required by Section 6-158(9) of the election law. All other certificates of consents filed by Walter Iwachu are a nullity in that they were filed for a non-existent political party or independent body. Commissioners, any appearances for Mr. Iwachu? Commissioners, I'd ask that you adopt those two items on the prima facie calendar and remove those two candidates from the ballot.
I move that we
move those two items and remove those candidates from the ballot.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
You
However,
have
I
to-
abstain on Walter E. Watch.
And Commissioners, the last two items relate to the certificate of nomination for Diane C. Richardson as the Green Party candidate for member of the Assembly. The prima facie defect is that no certificate of authorization was filed as required by section 6-120 of the election law. In addition, an objection was properly filed by Kenya T. Solis to said certificate, basically on the same grounds, against candidate Diana Richardson. And the council's report is attached there too, with the finding that following a nomination by a party of a candidate who is not an enrolled member of that party, a certificate of authorization has to be filed no later than 4 days after the last day to file such certificate of nomination by the party committee. In this case, the Green Party did not and has not filed said certificate of authorization. Accordingly, the certificate of nomination should be deemed null and void for the failure to meet the statutory requirements. Any appearances for either Ms. Richardson or Ms. Solis?
Yes, Martin E. Connor, 61 Pierpont Street, Brooklyn, New York.
You have the appearance.
Attorney for the objector, Kenya Solis. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I want to thank the board for giving me something different, unique to do on St. Patrick's Day. You know, it gets boring year after year when you go to parades or bars or whatever, so I'm happy to be here. I think the council staff report says it all. The statute's very, very clear that you have to be authorized when you're not a party member, and there is no certificate of authorization.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
No, I move the memo, council's report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
For the record, I recuse myself from voting on this matter.
The council's report is adopted, so the candidate will not appear on the ballot. Commissioners, before we end with relating to the special election, I'm going to ask Mr. Sadia to come up to talk about both the ballot format and the authorization to print military and federal ballots. By federal law, those have to begin being distributed this Saturday. Yes.
That goes up.
That's what we do usually.
Oh, okay.
We usually do it to adopt it, that based on, the request will be to print the ballots based on your actions today. Tom, you can talk now.
Please, thank you. Sorry. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I think Stephen's passing in the ballot layout out now. What is in front of you now is the ballot layout for the 43rd Assembly District. Based on your actions just prior, this is the only ballot layout that really needs discussion, because this is the only one that now keeps an independent candidate on the ballot. The ballot layout you have in front of you has the eight parties that are official in the state of New York based on the gubernatorial results, with the one independent party underneath the 8th column, as we normally have done in special elections and in general elections. There was one instance in which the board went to a 9-column layout, which was the 2012 general election. If the commissioners were to adopt using the 2012 general election layout for this special election, that would allow this entire contest to appear all on one column. And how that would be done would be just to shorten the write-in column, right? It wouldn't be John, I'm sorry. It would be the candidate? Okay, the office title box would be one timing mark smaller. if you look at the top of the ballot, those are the timing marks. We can make that one timing mark smaller. That would allow the Love Yourself party to appear in the, on one row, on the top row. Oh, it would be 2 times 1? Okay. It would be, I apologize, it would be 2 timing marks shorter, the office supply side column, not 1.
Tom, what size font is this?
This is 8, and that's going to be it 8 or 9 columns across. That's the size. As you can see, candidate Richardson and candidate Rayport are both at the very edge of the boxes.
Yeah, a number of us, I think all of the commissioners, think that the ballot print is too damn small. So, since this is not a very, an election with a very long ballot on it, is there any way that we can sort of try and increase the size of the font? Given the fact that there are no candidates in women's equality and reform.
And Democrat.
And Democrat. Well, I wasn't gonna go there, but
And Green. We already did.
all right, well, no, but in particular, the ones at the end, I wasn't gonna suggest getting, sort of moving them, sort of going the other direction, moving these other guys down a little bit further, and then making the ballot and the font a little bit larger. Is there any way we could think about doing that, and how would that work?
Can we do it in landscape, maybe?
Landscape, to take the second first, landscape is very tricky, because theoretically, yes, it can be done, but the way the system is set up currently, the system is set up in a portrait style format, to accept a ballot in a portrait style format, not a landscape. That would be a real, fundamental change, and it would present a lot of problems.
Can we shift the write-in candidate box down 1, and we move that and spread everything out a little bit?
You mean the timing marks?
No.
You take the
Oh.
write-in box.
And move it down, move the timing, move the write-in down underneath.
The way the software configures the ballot, the write-in column is always the last column on the ballot. We don't have control to wrap it as if it was a candidate. We can make either the 8 columns, the 9 columns at 2 timing marks wide. To really get any font increase, we would have to go to a 6-column ballot, and then that actually gives us the issue of it would roll 3 of these. Although the women's equality and the reform would move over, it would also bring the Love Yourself down to the second row also. But it would give us 3 timing marks wide for each candidate, and then of course the font would be able to be
In
larger.
particular for this ballot, since there are no candidates, I'm not sure if those parties would significantly object to having themselves on the second column, and that way everybody, including Love Yourself, would be in larger font and would be easier to read.
So it would be
Because they have to stay blank in that order, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Commissioners,
we
each of
moved-
the 8 parties have a ballot spot. If they don't nominate it, that's supposed to be a blank spot.
Right, so if you go to,
If I can just interject, the Green Party candidate was just ruled off, correct?
Yes.
So if we make it 6 columns, leaving the Democrat and the first 6 where they are, and then we put the women's equality and the reform parties underneath the independents and the working families, it puts Love Yourself under Green. So there isn't, everyone would be able to get a larger font, and there wouldn't be any issue of an overvote situation, because there is no candidate directly above the Love Yourself in this one scenario,
Right,
to
well,
give you that
that's-
overvote possibility for them to go in. So it would give everybody a larger font, and it would give the Love Yourself, in a sense, its own column, since there wouldn't be a Green candidate above it to confuse voters with.
What font would we be able to use?
At at the 6-column wide, we'd probably be able to get to 10 or 11. I'd have to reconfigure the ballot and see what the font would be, but in the past, when we've done the 6-column ballot, we were able to greatly increase the size of the font, because it gives you, at that point, extra timing mark for each one of them, so we can, and as Richardson is the longest of the names, also being taken off, so we probably easily get a couple of point sizes larger.
Can we reduce the timing marks for those party columns that have no candidate?
Unfortunately, the system is set up to be fair, and each party is given the same number of timing marks. I don't have control to give one party a certain number of timing marks wide or another party. Each party, there's only one designation, and then all the parties get the same number of timing marks wide.
This is ES.
This is the state-certified ES&S software for creation of ballots for use with their DS200 and DS850 and AutoMark equipment.
So we have no leeway.
Can I have an
Well-
explanation a little bit further as to why we can't do it in landscape? I just want some more detail.
Well-
Because this is the first time that we've got actually so much real estate, and we're fighting over 8.5 inches. So if somebody could just give me a little bit more detail as to that, I'd appreciate it.
Fundamentally, the system has been, was tested and certified with our portrait ballot. We've been using it since 2010 that way. We have not done any testing to make sure that using the system in that manner will actually function.
What would entail with respect to that kind of testing, and how much time would be required to do that if we could go in that direction?
We would have to basically test every aspect of the system from creation of the ballots through testing test decks through the DS200 and the AutoMark to make sure that each piece of software and each piece of equipment work with that format in place, testing that the results will be returned back to the ERM software to make sure that the software, not only does it give you a ballot to look at, but also that the results will be tracked correctly.
How much time would it take to undergo that kind of testing?
My estimate would probably be 2 to 3 days to make sure that every aspect of the software would function for the landscape ballot.
2 to 3 days, I'm addressing the other commissioners at this point. 2 to 3 days doesn't sound as though it's that onerous of a commitment if we can achieve so much more in terms of the ballot space. And I want to poll the other commissioners as to their opinion.
But that's the testing though, how about the printing? We would have to print these
Well-
ballots, doesn't that take time?
But all of that testing would then push back when we're going to create and then set these ballots to be available for the board staff to use with the ballot on demand printers to print. As it is, all the ballots, we need to print and get those ballots in the mail on Saturday. If it took us a couple of days to get that done, it then severely compresses the time frame that the boroughs have to produce the ballots and then mail those
Can
ballots.
it be done? Is it possible?
It's possible in which regard? Possible in that, can the work be done?
Can
Yes.
it be
Will it
done?
fit in the
Complete-
time frame?
Can you
complete
everything
this
you
task?
said, can it be complete?
On time.
On time.
I don't think it would be advisable that it would be completed on time. As it is, I've
So
conferred with the,
you're saying that it cannot be done on time?
not in the time frame we have. I've conferred with the borough staffs already about the schedule of getting them the ballots
Why not?
for Thursday, and they've expressed that they may not be able to get all the ballots printed and stuffed and mailed out to meet the deadline as it is, to then tell them that we're not going to have ballots even further into the week. I would assume their answer would be even more, that they wouldn't be able to get that accomplished.
John, the testing that you're also referring to, are you also referring to the testing at the VMFs as well?
Well, what we would have to do for the software is, we would have to go through all of that testing. The testing for not every single machine, but we'd have to test the DS200s to make sure that they'll work, the 850s that they'll work, that the AutoMark will work, that the software, every facet of the software will work with a landscape ballot, since we have never used the program and the software in that way.
Was
Mr.
that
Nordis,
part of your was that part of your 2 to 3 day testing as well, the VMF, as well as what you do?
That's to test all, yes, to test all aspects.
Mr. Nordis, is it true that this landscape platform is used in other counties with the same software? I know we may not have ever done it, but isn't it true that it's used in other counties on the landscape basis?
Yes, other counties do use the landscape ballot.
So we know that it can be accomplished.
Certainly, it can be accomplished. All I'm suggesting is that we need to test it to make sure it works with our environment.
I agree with the testing. I would also posit that we should significantly undergo further analysis as to the landscape approach as opposed to this very tiny portrait approach. And put that out to the commissioners.
But if we do the landscape, what, you'll increase the font size to what?
If we go to landscape, as it hasn't been done, I would have to set it up and see what it would increase. Obviously, since there's more width, there's more height on the ballot than width, it probably would increase the font. I just can't say for sure without testing.
No, obviously it will, but the question is whether or not it will increase the font more than if you did the last option you gave us with that wraparound. Where you said
If it would
it's
go,
at
up-
11.
if it
Go
go by
past
going
that.
landscaping, if we went landscaping, will the font increase more than the 11 or 12 that you're saying that if we went with 6?
I wouldn't be able to say that until I've tested it.
Okay.
Question, is there a legal requirement that all 8 parties be listed on the ballot when some of those parties have no candidates running in this?
Yes.
Commissioner, they've achieved ballot status, they have to appear on every
Every-
general and/or special election ballot, whether or not they have nominated a candidate.
Okay, I think Commissioner Castorino raises a very good issue, as also Commissioner Shamoon, about the landscape. I'm concerned about this particular election, however, and I think that because it's empty, we could achieve a much larger type by doing the wraparound for this, and then I would ask simultaneously, in the event that this comes up again, that John, that your group takes the time to do the testing and to get it right, so that if this comes up again, we don't have to do it under the gun in a certain situation like this, that it'll already be sort of pre-tested, and you'll know those answers when Commissioner Castorino asks those questions again. I'm just concerned that I don't want to somehow put us behind the 8 ball, since we haven't really anticipated it for this particular special election, but there may be others coming up, and we should take the time and trouble to do the research and the testing to be able to, for you to be able to stand up there and say, well, since we've done all the testing, we know we have a go, and we could probably do it without having the sort of the concern that for some reason this election would be delayed, or that the federal ballots would be delayed, or something like that. I think here, because there is a potentially maybe not as good, but an alternative solution that would enlarge the font on the ballot, that maybe we could get by with the way we've been doing it, but at the same time take the steps to make sure that if it comes up again, we'll be ready to go, and we won't be under the gun.
Right, and I would like to add to that, I think in the future, and because it always seems that we're always under the gun, for whatever reasons it may be, but I think in the future, I would like you guys to come up and say, we can go with this ballot, or we can go with this one, and we should be able to decide.
Okay.
So take the time to turn around and say, we can go with this ballot, and we can also go landscape, and we can increase it. Not that we're asking it. So I think on the next thing, because I agree that we're always under that time frame. If we don't make it, we're going to look good. So I'm saying is that in the future, the next time, hopefully that you can come with 2 designs, either the landscape or this way. And this way, at least you know you tested both of them.
But, and I have a concern that some of our decisions may be circumscribed by limitations of the software. That was a comment that was made 5 minutes ago. So if there's any possibility of looking in on that question as well.
I think he wanted to test the
Yeah, I think it can be, but he
That's
wanted to
testing.
double check the testing of the software. The software is all certified by what we're allowed to do under the state.
That's right.
Under the state, we can do landscape.
Certainly.
But your thing, you're saying that it would take 3 days to test it because we never did landscape before.
I would just say it's always a prudent approach that if you're going to use the software, especially something that's going to count votes, that you make sure that you have tested it the way that you're going to use it.
Absolutely, and that's why I'm saying is the same thing, and I think what most of the commissioners, or all the commissioners, agree that it would be the best thing to do. But coming here, we should try to say that we have it both ways. We can give it to you both ways. Commissioners, please decide which way you want to do it.
When do the military ballots need to go out?
Saturday.
Yeah.
This Saturday?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why, it's,
That's
I have a
okay.
good
There's always-
idea, I just
No,
don't think
no
we can,
later than this Saturday.
we can just.
No, later than, that's why I'm saying is in the future, we have to get this
Well,
ahead
we're
of
gonna
time.
we need to schedule this ahead of time, because this is, I
Well-
mean, this isn't a choice or a selection, this is what it is.
Take it or leave it.
And I'm not satisfied with that.
Steve, when was the last possible date that the people could add names to the
Names.
ballot?
Well, the Commissioner, we scheduled a hearing because the last day to file specifications of objections was last Wednesday.
No, but I guess the last day to file petitions, we would
Oh.
know what the max is.
Well, yeah, that was
So then the ballot committee-
10, 12 days ago.
So the ballot committee
The
would
ballot
start
committee could
working
have
on the
started.
maximum.
Yeah.
Start from there, not from.
Commissioner, the other point too is though you have to be aware that the voters have to be educated too, because they've been all trained to vote in one manner. And the
But
question
this
would
is
be
a
is,
small election that,
again, in this district too, that's, I think, the question that how do you get the information out since there aren't any additional mailings or anything else going out to the voters from the board.
No,
Well,
no,
in
but
the
the point
future, we
that
could
we're trying
always
to
do
make
that.
here is we understand what the concerns of the board are, and we understand what the concerns of the board are. What we're saying is the commissioners have in the past repeatedly said, we need more time with this information. That's why we created a ballot review committee, right? And that's all, we're being consistent with that request. Give us more time to make a decision. Don't wait to the last minute and force a decision on you.
And give us more options, I echo Commissioner Arajo's sentiments.
So I move that we shift the other parties down, increase the timing marks on the, on all of the parties, and use as large a type as we can get away with the additional timing marks. And that we also ask the group to do the necessary testing so that the next time we'll know for sure whether we can do it or not, and what the potential problems would be.
May I be heard, Commissioners? May I be heard? I'm Sam Maslow, representing the Love Yourself Party.
Yeah, I guess.
It's in regards to the ballot. It's in
all right, yeah,
regards to the ballot.
you guys finish?
Yes, thank you.
Commissioner, just be advised that
Do you have your,
a
have
validated
a,
petition on behalf of Mr. Davis and the party has already been filed, is returnable next Monday.
He's returnable in court?
Yes, but it also seeks in addition to putting on the ballot such other relief as they may seek.
Yeah, but as of right now, it's on the ballot.
Right,
He's on the ballot.
including the format of the ballot.
Absolutely.
I have a notice of Sam Maslow, Jeffrey Davis, authorized to speak on his behalf.
yes, please state your name.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Sam Maslow, and I'm representing Jeffrey Davis along with the Love Yourself Party. I had just taken a look at the current ballot form that we have, and the party and Mr. Davis asserts that we are content with this setup. It was brought up at the meeting that voters are used to voting in the portrait landscape and not in the landscape side. We have no objections to this. This has been the traditional way that special election and specifically nominating petitions have been written on and typed on ballots. I understand that there's this interest in testing to have larger font size. We have no problem with larger font size, but I would request to know where would the Love Yourself Party be if we have larger font size? Specifically, what party would it be under on the first line if it is in the landscape format? That's what the commission is
No,
deciding.
no. There is no landscape. Right now, it would stay the same way, except that it will be 6 across.
So Love Yourself.
Love Yourself would be under the Green Party, which above it, there is no candidate.
Only because today's St. Patrick's Day, it would be under the Green Party.
So when would just so we have an idea, when would the format be available?
As once we agree to it.
And when, would be a schedule on that, just so the campaign can go?
Well, we have to know how fast we can build the ballot, and then we put a sample on the side.
Right. How long would it, after the decision is made, how long will it take?
By the close of business tomorrow, the
Ballot would be on the
available.
website.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
You're welcome.
There's a motion on the floor?
There's a motion on the floor. Could you repeat the
Repeat
motion?
the motion, please.
That we try and increase the size of each party's space so that it becomes, I guess, 3 instead of 2 timing marks, is that right? And that
Yes.
we shift women's equality and reform down on the second line and sort of shift over so that the love yourself is under the green, reform is under the working families, and women's equality is under independence. And that, I'm sorry?
We wrap it back.
And we wrap her,
So
well, we
we
sort of,
reform under independence, women's equality, and working families. And
What, 6 lines?
yeah,
Come
well,
around to reverse. The last part we did reverse.
I thought it was indicated that the 8 parties have to be listed.
yeah, they are, it's just
In
not
the
on the
first
same.
row.
No, they have to be listed on the ballot, you have to maintain their spaces, but we have wrapped around political parties beforehand. You just can't
They all
eliminate
have
the
to be on
box,
the ballot.
Commissioner. They have to appear on the ballot, their name has to appear on the
It's
ballot.
gotta, it's gotta.
So, but they have to appear in their form, like Democrats have to be first.
So which of the 8 parties will be in row 1, which will be in row 2?
Okay, going
And where
across,
will the
Commissioners,
Love Yourself party wind up?
Commissioners, going across in the first row under that, Commissioner Eubanks motion, Democratic, Republican, Conservative, Green, Working Families, and Independents. Under the Independents.
Would be in row 1.
Row 1. In row 2, under the Independents, as you wrap around, would be Reform, Women's Equality would be under Working Families, and the Love Yourself would be under the Green. You work your way back.
Sorry, that's a little backwards. It would be
Yeah.
women's equality under independence, reform under working families, and love yourself under green.
Yeah.
That's correct, John's correct.
Flipping, wrapping it around.
So can you
It's a
state that
snake.
again? Right.
It's a snake.
Do you want me to do it?
Yes.
In order, going 6 columns across, it would be the Democratic Party, then the Republican Party, then the Conservative Party, then the Green Party, then the Working Families Party, and then the Independence Party. Below the Independence Party will be Women's Equality, below Working Families will be Reform, and below Green will be Love Yourself.
Women's equality would be under Democrat?
No,
Independents.
Wraps from the
It
back.
wraps, yeah, we call it like a snake, it wraps around.
Everybody
All in favor?
all in favor of it?
Aye.
Second?
All
in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed?
Okay.
Carries. Carries.
I abstain.
Commissioners, then formally you need to authorize to print military and federal ballots, followed by absentee ballots, based on your determinations made at this meeting.
Okay, so move.
Move. Second. All in favor? All opposed? Carries.
And finally, Commissioners, we'd ask, since the court return date would be Monday morning and the last day to commence the proceeding, challenges these would be midnight on Friday, we'd ask you to authorize us to request the law department to defend the board any proceeding challenging the decisions you made today.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? All opposed? Unanimous.
Commissioners, that
Thank you.
concludes all the hearings and related matters relating to the special election.
I just, Mr. Norris, how long do you think you will take you, since we're not now under the gun, is 2 weeks or 3 weeks enough to run tests that so you could report back to us on the landscape ballot? Or a month, 30 days? What do
Your
you-
next
what do you-
meeting is in 2 weeks? Your next-
Yeah, or it could be 3 weeks, I'm not sure what we're doing.
Oh,
Because next week is,
they're going
next week we're
upstate.
going to Albany.
So the next meeting's in 3 weeks?
I don't know, we have to decide that, that could take another hour to decide.
If the next meeting's in 3 weeks, then yes, we'll be able to report back the findings of the testing on the landscape ballot
Okay.
by the next
All right, I
meeting.
just wanted to make sure that we sort of had a target. Thank you.